Honey, I Shrunk the Kids features scientist and inventor Wayne Szalinski, played by Rick Moranis, who is a constant screw-up, but it turns out his shrinking device actually does work, and it ends up shrinking his kids Amy and Nick, played by Amy O'Neill and that kid from Edward Scissorhands respectively, as well as the neighbours' kids Ron and Russ, played by the kid from Big and Thomas Wilson Brown respectively. This leads to Wayne, his wife Diane, played by Marcia Strassman, and the neighbours' parents, Buffy's mum and Russell, played by Matt Frewer, who I'm pretty sure just swallowed Jim Carrey.
I put on 20 pounds of pure, unadulterated blitz the quarterback and rip his head off muscle wrestle.
They spend the movie trying desperately to find them in the garden while the tiny people do their best to fight to survive. The idea was brought to Disney Studios by Stuart Gordon and Brian Usner, who were also brought on to direct and produce under the working title Teeny Weenies, which sounds more like it belongs on CBeebies.
Tubular!
Unfortunately, Stuart Gordon had to back out of the project as he fell ill, and he was replaced by Jurassic Park 3 director Joe Johnston. No, get away, get away!
Believe this.
At the time, Johnston had never directed a film before. He was a well-respected art director and special effects artist, but this was the opportunity to gain him credibility as a filmmaker as well. Johnston felt the script relied too much on the special effects and went through rewrites with Tom Schulman to focus more on the characters instead. They were influenced by the likes of the 1957 film The Incredible Shrinking Man, and they quickly realised the title seemed like they were aiming more towards a child demographic. So it was changed to Grounded, a clever pun but also aiming towards a more mature audience. It was then changed again to The Big Backyard before finally landing the name we all know and love.
It works!
Originally, Chevy Chase was lined up to star in the lead due to the success of the National Lampoon's Vacation, but he was busy filming the sequel and was unavailable.
Oh no! Anyway, last week...
Martin Short was then considered, but it never materialised, and the next suggestion was John Candy, but he turned it down, though he did suggest Rick Moranis after having worked with him on other projects. The movie was largely shot in Mexico City, using mostly practical effects in front of the camera, using models, action figures, and playing around with perception to give off the actors looking smaller than they actually were, or making the objects look bigger. The sets took over 9 months to build, including creating a 10-foot tall cookie made out of foam, as well as a giant mechanical ant that required a dozen puppeteers to operate. The movie was released on June the 23rd, 1989, and actually opened at number 2 in the US, only behind Tim Burton's Batman. Yeah, there was a time when Batman went up against Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. The film ended up grossing over $22.7 million, and it was positively received by fans and critics as a fun family adventure comedy. Though screenwriter Jeffrey Kauf sued Disney, claiming that it was plagiarized from a script of his about a boy who invents a formula that shrinks people, though it was concluded that they weren't similar and it was rejected in court.
It will take time to convince people without proof.
The movie certainly has some unique opening credits to later inspire the likes of The Borrowers. It's just so colourful and charming. The movie does have the neglectful workaholic father cliche not once, but twice in less than 7 minutes, and some genius foreshadowing.
Honey, when you say things like that, you make him feel about this big.
Some of the writing is a bit off. Nick's friend comes over and wants to try out their weird lawnmower but can't just yet, so he says he'll come back later for some reason. And it's all because we can have some random conflict later in the film to nearly butcher the kids. Damn, go Disney! In fact, in early versions of the script, there was actually going to be an extra kid who was going to be killed off during a sprinkler sequence. They really had balls! The setup is a bit contrived. Wayne can't figure out how to get the machine to work, and then the kids hit a baseball through a window, which hits a button and something blocks the laser to get it to work, and it has a mind of its own for some reason and aims it at the couch. But it's a film about a shrinking device, don't expect it to make a lot of sense, and the kids are also pretty funny.
He hit a baseball through your attic window.
He what? It shouldn't have been closed in the first place. It's a nice day.
When we get home and he fixes us all, we're gonna be so rich. I'm gonna regret this.
Amy, you know I've always liked your family.
It all looks great, the perception and effects all look on point. They do surprisingly hold up quite well for a dumb family adventure film of the 80s. Most of the time. It's just a wonderful, charming movie. And whenever they're in danger, it genuinely is really dramatic and intense.
Well, I think we should stick together.
Well, come on.
Nikki?
You said you should stick together. So he walked off to stick together. I love how casual Wayne is to his damn couch disappearing.
You want to hear something strange? My thinking couch is missing.
The one from the attic?
Yeah.
No, how does an entire couch go missing? That's not normal, mate. It's not that consistent. They're too small for Wayne to hear them right next to him, but then the dog is able to hear them whistle from inside the house from the other end of the garden. And despite how big the garden apparently is, they get separated and are still able to bump into each other again. The movie also constantly points out that they haven't mowed the lawn in forever, but in several shots it clearly looks like it's not even that long. But then in other shots it's magically grown. It is pretty funny to see Wayne try to kill a bee with a baseball bat though. Then he plays the floor is lava to avoid crushing his kids. Although he uses stilts, doesn't that defeat the purpose? I mean, the stilts can still crush them. But honestly, making him look like a weirdo will never not be funny. But this kid knows how to do CPR, but he doesn't press down on a chest. Idiot. They all rush to eat a cookie they found. Look, I know they're hungry and desperate, but it's been out in the garden for God knows how long. Imagine the diseases you're gonna catch.
Why didn't you tell us earlier?
Well, until now, the machine just blew things up.
Are you saying that machine
Blew up my kids?
No, that's the sequel. There is a nice wholesome moment where Wayne and Diane realise his new invention and their marital issues are irrelevant. Even before this, their family were having problems and they need to reunite and settle their issues first. It's quite sweet. But apparently the family live in the desert because they have a damn scorpion in the garden. Fair play though, the movie manages to get me to give a shit when an ant dies. It's a fucking ant!
This is the burrow of a Lumbricus terrestris. A what? Earthworm.
Just say earthworm then! Smart ass. And of course the dog saves their lives. See, dogs solve everything.
This gizmo's been blowing up fruit, man. You're not trying it on my kids until you tried it on something living.
The love story is also quite cute. The parents try to imply that he's a douchebag and can't be trusted.
Amy, in the dark, with little Russ Thompson.
But the film never shows him being a prick at all. So it does just come across as a shy guy next door finally having the courage to talk to this girl and then falling for one another. And it's never really forced. The movie is just a wonderful experience. Stretch your disbelief, sit back, have a laugh, and enjoy a short 90-minute load of fun.